Have you ever tried to comfort an elderly loved one, and realized that sometimes the smallest things make the biggest difference? Maybe it was something as simple as holding their hand during a quiet moment, tucking their blanket a little tighter on a cold evening, or even helping them with a sip of water when they were too tired to lift the glass themselves. At first, those gestures might feel small, almost insignificant. But later, you notice the way their eyes soften, the way their breathing slows, or how a gentle smile crosses their face, and you realize it meant everything. The truth is, caring for someone in their later years isn't always about the big, dramatic actions. More often, it's about the subtle touches, the little moves, that can either bring them peace and comfort, or, if we're not careful, leave them feeling frustrated, neglected, or invisible. And that's what we're diving into today. Because when we talk about the right moves, it's not about technique or doing things perfectly. It's about understanding your loved one on a deeper level, and knowing how to connect with them in ways that go beyond words. In this video, I'm going to walk you through 5 powerful care moves, 5 small but deeply meaningful actions, that can transform the way your elderly loved one feels cared for, respected, and understood. These are not complicated. They don't require special training. But they do require attention, patience, and love. And I promise you this, once you see how much impact these simple gestures carry, you'll never look at caregiving the same way again. But before we begin, I'd love for you to join in. Comment below with the word gentle if you believe, like I do, that sometimes the smallest touch can have the biggest impact. And if you're new here, welcome to Elderly Wisdom Guide. This is the place where we share insights, stories, and practical tips to help you give your loved ones the comfort, dignity, and compassion they deserve. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, so you never miss a chance to learn how to bring more peace and love into the lives of those who matter most. Let's start with the first move, and it might be the simplest, yet the most overlooked, the power of gentle touch. Picture this, your mother, once full of life and laughter, now sitting quietly by the window. She doesn't say much these days. Maybe her energy isn't what it used to be, or maybe she just feels forgotten. You walk over, sit beside her, and without saying a single word, you place your hand over hers. At first, she doesn't move. But then, she squeezes back. And in that tiny exchange, something changes. A connection forms. A quiet reassurance passes between you. Touch has a language of its own. It speaks when words fall short. It says, I'm here. You matter. You are not alone. And for many elderly people, who often spend long hours in silence or isolation, that kind of reassurance is priceless. Science tells us that gentle touch actually changes the body. It releases oxytocin, the bonding hormone. It lowers stress, reduces blood pressure, and even eases physical pain. But beyond the science, it softens the heart. It makes an elderly parent, a grandparent, or a spouse feel safe, sometimes safer than anything else can. Yet here's the mistake so many families make. We assume that what matters most are the big gestures, the expensive gifts, the special outings, the complicated medical decisions. And while those things have their place, they can never replace the simple healing power of touch. Sometimes, in our rush to do more, we forget that being present can mean so much more. So, what can you do? Start small. Hold their hand during anxious moments. Offer a reassuring pat on the back when they're feeling uncertain. Sit beside them and let them feel your presence. You don't have to fill the silence with words. You don't have to force conversation. Just let your touch be the message, that they are loved, that they are safe, and that they are not invisible. And once you begin to see how something as gentle as a hand squeeze can brighten their face, you'll realize, care doesn't always come from grand actions. Often, it comes from the quiet, tender ones. But touch alone isn't enough. Now, let's talk about the second move, the listening move. Picture this. Your grandfather begins to tell a story you've already heard countless times. Maybe it's about his first job, or the way he met your grandmother, or a memory from a war, a farm, a church, or a small town he once called home. At first, you nod politely. By the second or third time, you're tempted to tune out, maybe even interrupt him with, "Grandpa, you already told us this." But here's the truth, those stories carry meaning. They're not just random tales. They're pieces of his identity, anchors that remind him of who he is, especially in a world that sometimes feels like it's moving too fast and leaving him behind. Every time he repeats a story, he's not just filling space, he's reaching out for connection. Listening, really listening, is one of the greatest gifts you can give an elderly loved one. It doesn't just make them feel heard, it makes them feel valued. Science shows that active listening boosts emotional well-being, supports memory, and even helps keep the mind sharper. It validates their life experiences, reminding them that their words still matter, their voice still carries weight, and their life still has purpose. The mistake so many of us make is assuming repetition equals confusion. We think, "Oh, they must be forgetting they already told me this." But often, it's not confusion at all, it's longing. A longing to share something meaningful. A longing to pass down wisdom. A longing to be part of the conversation, not just a background figure in the room. So, what's the right move? Instead of correcting, instead of interrupting, lean in. Listen with patience. Ask questions that show you care. "Grandpa, what happened after that?" Or, "How did that make you feel?" These small prompts can open up doors for deeper connection. And even if you've heard the story before, listen again. Because sometimes it's not about the story itself, it's about the feeling of being heard. When you practice this kind of listening, something powerful happens. You're no longer just sitting across from an elderly parent or grandparent. You're stepping into their world, walking through their memories, and letting them know that they still matter. That their life has value. That their words are not lost on you. Listening connects the heart. Now let's move into the third care move, the respectful assistance move. Picture this. Your father is sitting at the edge of the bed, trying to button his shirt. His hands aren't as steady as they used to be. His fingers tremble, and his eyesight isn't what it once was. You watch him struggle, and your first instinct is to step in. To finish it for him. To save him the frustration. It feels like the loving thing to do. But here's the hidden truth, when you jump in too quickly, you may actually be robbing him of something priceless, his dignity. You see, independence isn't just about doing things on your own. It's about self-worth. It's about pride. It's about feeling like you're still capable, still human, still in control of your own life. Science tells us that when seniors are allowed to do tasks for themselves, even small ones, they preserve their motor skills longer, their confidence grows, and their emotional health stays stronger. But when everything is done for them, when every little struggle is taken away, decline can set in faster. The body weakens, but so does the spirit. The misconception many families fall into is thinking that speed is more important than patience. We tell ourselves, "It's just quicker if I do it," or "I don't want them to get frustrated, so I'll handle it." And while those intentions come from love, they can send the wrong message: "You can't do this. You're not capable anymore." Imagine how that must feel to someone who's lived a long, independent life. The respectful move here is not to take over, it's to guide. To assist, but not to control. Maybe you hand your father the shirt and say, "Take your time, I'll sit with you." Maybe you help him start the first button, and let him finish the rest. Maybe you give him space, but stay close enough so he knows you're there if he needs you. This balance is delicate, but it's powerful. Because in those moments, you're not just helping with clothes, you're protecting his dignity. You're saying, "I believe in you. I respect you. I will not take away what makes you feel whole." When you approach caregiving with this kind of patience, you'll notice the difference. Frustration softens. Pride returns. The spark of independence shines, even if only in small ways. And those small ways add up. Now we arrive at the fourth care move, the emotional validation move. Imagine this: your elderly aunt sits across from you one evening, her voice trembling as she says, "I'm afraid that when I'm gone, people will forget me." Maybe they already have. Those words cut deep, don't they? But what happens next matters even more. Too often, families rush to brush it off with quick comfort. "Don't talk like that." Or, "Of course that's not true." We think we're helping. But what we're really doing is dismissing the fear. And in that dismissal, the pain only grows heavier. Here's the truth many people don't realize: seniors carry enormous emotional weight. Anxiety about memory loss. Worries about loneliness. Fears of mortality. These thoughts are not signs of weakness, they're human. And pretending those feelings don't exist doesn't make them disappear. In fact, studies show that when emotions are ignored, stress rises. But when emotions are acknowledged, when they're validated, resilience grows. Seniors feel less alone in their struggle, and more equipped to face it. The mistake we often make is thinking that positivity is the cure. We say things like, "Don't be negative," or "You'll be fine, stop worrying." But false positivity, as well-intentioned as it might be, can feel like rejection. It tells your loved one, "Your feelings don't matter." And that can hurt far more than the fear itself. The right move is empathy. Simple, quiet empathy. Instead of pushing the fear away, lean into it with them. You might say, "I understand that you feel that way, and I'm here for you." Or, "I can see why that thought worries you, but you don't have to carry it alone." Notice how that changes the energy. It doesn't erase the fear, but it lightens the load. It says, "You are not alone in this moment. I see you. I hear you." Validation is not about having the perfect answer. It's not about fixing what can't be fixed. It's about presence. It's about honoring their truth, even when it's hard to hear. And in doing so, you give them strength, not by removing the storm, but by standing with them in it. Once emotions are validated, the final move becomes the glue that holds it all together. And now we come to the fifth move, the consistency move. Picture this. A grandmother sits quietly by the window each afternoon, waiting for the familiar sound of her granddaughter's footsteps on the porch. Every week, without fail, she comes by for tea. The conversations aren't always long. Sometimes they're light-hearted, sometimes they're quiet. But what matters most is the rhythm, the regularity. That dependable routine becomes her anchor, her reminder that she is not forgotten. Consistency may not sound dramatic, but for an elderly loved one, it can mean the difference between peace and loneliness. Science shows us that routines reduce anxiety, strengthen memory recall, and create a sense of safety. When life feels unpredictable, routine is a steady hand to hold. It tells your loved one, "You can count on this. You can count on me." Here's where many families get it wrong. We think sporadic big gestures, a surprise visit, a fancy dinner, an elaborate outing, are what matter most. And while those moments can bring joy, they don't replace the comfort of consistency. A single grand gesture, no matter how thoughtful, can't fill the emptiness of weeks spent waiting and wondering if anyone remembers. The solution here is simple but powerful: set up a pattern. It could be a daily phone call, a weekly visit, or even a regular note left by the bedside. It doesn't have to be long or complicated. What matters is the predictability. That steady reminder of love. Because for many seniors, anticipation itself is healing. Knowing that tomorrow will bring a familiar voice, a familiar smile, or a familiar gesture gives them something to look forward to, and that hope carries them through. So, when you think about consistency, don't measure it by how grand it looks. Measure it by how steady it feels. To your loved one, it's not just a routine, it's proof of love that does not fade, proof of presence that does not vanish. These 5 moves may look simple, but together they hold extraordinary power. Watching someone you love age can be heartbreaking. The little things you notice, the slower steps, the forgotten names, the deeper silences, are gentle but constant reminders of life's fragility. It's not just about them changing. It's about you facing the reality that time is moving forward, and nothing stays the same. But here is where you have a choice. You can let fear and sadness dominate your heart, or you can reframe this season into something deeply meaningful. Instead of mourning what is slowly fading, see it as a sacred opportunity, an invitation to show love in ways that matter most. To touch when words aren't enough. To listen when silence feels heavy. To assist with dignity rather than pity. To validate feelings instead of dismissing them. And to stay consistent when the world around them feels uncertain. This is not just about care, it's about connection. Every small move you make carries weight far beyond what you can see in the moment. That gentle touch, that patient listening ear, that respectful pause before helping, that soft acknowledgement of fear, that steady presence, it builds a bridge of trust, of safety, of love that will remain etched in their heart long after the moment has passed. So don't wait for the perfect day, or the grand gesture, or the big event. Begin today. Pick one of these 5 moves, just one, and try it with your loved one. Hold their hand when they feel restless. Sit and truly listen when they repeat a memory. Step back and let them do what they still can. Nod gently and say, "I hear you." Call them tomorrow, just because you said you would. Then watch the difference it makes, not only in them, but in you. Because at the end of the day, what matters most isn't found in wealth, or possessions, or the fleeting busyness of life. It's found in these quiet, consistent ways we say, "You are loved. You are valued. You are not forgotten." And in those words, in those actions, you offer the greatest gift any elder could ever receive, the gift of dignity, the gift of presence, the gift of love that does not waver. To recap, let's pause and hold on to the heart of today's message. The 5 moves we explored together are simple, yet they hold incredible power: the gentle touch, the act of true listening, respectful assistance, emotional validation, and the consistency that builds trust and comfort. These may look like small actions on the surface, but in the life of an elderly loved one, they are nothing short of transformational. Now, let me ask you, out of these 5, which one do you feel is most often overlooked in elderly care? Is it the listening, where we too quickly brush off repeated stories? Is it the gentle touch, something so natural yet often forgotten? Or is it the consistency, the steady rhythm that gives peace in a world that can feel uncertain? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I would love to hear your perspective, and your story may inspire someone else who's walking the same path. And if this video spoke to your heart, if it opened your eyes in even the smallest way, I invite you to subscribe right here to Elderly Wisdom Guide. This channel is all about walking with you through the challenges and the joys of caring for aging loved ones, with compassion, with patience, and with dignity. Together, we can create a space where wisdom is honored, and care is given with love. Thank you so much for being here today, for choosing to spend your time learning how to bring more gentleness and meaning into the life of someone you care for. Stay gentle, stay kind, and always remember, every small act of care creates a lifetime of dignity. I'll see you in the next video.